Morning people, welcome back to F Politics. The boys are fighting.
I used to think the Prime Minister was a decent man.
Politicians who lied to this country, unleashed chaos and walked away after Brexit.
I hope when he wakes up tomorrow morning, he feels ashamed of what he has done.
But if you incite racist violence and hatred, that is not expressing concern, it's criminal.
This is an absolute disgrace.
We will fight you with everything we have because you are the enemy of national renewal.
He is unfit to be the Prime Minister of our country.
Nigel Farage is very upset at the fact that Labour seem to have spent the last couple of days calling him and his policies racist. And so he starts by laying out some of the policies that he says Labour is calling racist, even though those weren't actually the policies Labour was calling racist. But let's hear him out for now.
Reform want illegal migrants deported from our country.
So does everybody. Because it's not illegal to claim asylum in the UK. The Refugee Convention says you're allowed to enter another country for the purposes of claiming asylum. It only becomes illegal migration if you don't claim asylum within a reasonable period of time or you overstay your visa or something. Nobody is saying that it's racist to say that people who are here illegally shouldn't be here.
Reform want the benefit system to be for UK citizens, for British citizens only, not for foreign-born nationals.
How are you going to make that work? Because, like, if somebody comes here at maybe age 2, lives here their whole life, and they've worked their whole lives, but they fall ill or they get a disability, and so they need a little bit of assistance just to avoid starving, are you going to say that that person should just starve? Have you thought this through? Because yes, obviously somebody who comes to the UK shouldn't immediately be able to just go on benefits. But we used to have a system in place specifically to prevent that. It was called Article 7 of the EU Citizens' Rights Directive. You know, part of our EU membership. It said that in order to come to the UK for more than 3 months, you needed to either have a job or have sufficient resources and money to not be a burden on the welfare state and have your own comprehensive medical insurance. I wonder who fucked that up for us. Oh yeah, it was you, Nigel.
Reform want foreign criminals removed from our country ASAP.
Again, you seem to be just chucking out policies without really thinking them through. Because like a father of 3 who's lived here almost his entire life, if he gets a speeding ticket, do you want him on the first boat out of here? And if you haven't thought these policies through, that suggests that you're not interested in practically helping the UK. It's just about the appearance of hostility towards foreigners. Again, it's giving xenophobic.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral.
Well, they might not technically be racist, but they're definitely xenophobic and clearly immoral if you plan to rip apart families and push disabled foreigners into poverty by stripping their benefits.
And by implication, Reform supporters, Reform voters, Reform sympathisers are racist too.
Aren't we all just tired of this tactic? Oh, you can't call me racist because then you're calling all my voters racist. Objectively, Nigel Farage stood on stage a month ago with somebody who pled guilty to inciting racial hatred. So the most famous, criminally convicted racist in the country was on stage hugging Nigel Farage. She was only there because she pled guilty to inciting racial hatred. If you support a party whose leader hugs somebody specifically because they are racist, maybe it's fair to call you racist. Because here's the thing, Reform supporters can say that they're doing it because they want to control immigration or whatever, but ultimately the logic has to be control immigration to ultimately make life better for the people of the UK. But you know that the Reform Party is literally the Brexit Party, they just changed the name. And I just checked YouGov, and among Reform voters, only 13% of them believe that Brexit, the policy that their party was created to deliver, has made the cost of living crisis better, whereas 39% believe that it's made the cost of living crisis worse. So if you're somebody who supports the Reform Party, it is 3-to-1 likely that you believe that Brexit, the policy that your party was created to deliver, has made everybody in the UK poor. So you can't argue that you're going along with the Reform Party's anti-immigration stuff because all that matters to you is the well-being of the British people, because you're supporting a party that you know was created to make us poorer. So you're supporting hostility towards foreigners and minorities for the sake of hostility towards foreigners and minorities. Again, sounds racist to me.
Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists.
I mean, Keir Starmer literally said this an hour before you posted that.
Controlling migration is a reasonable goal.
I don't normally worry about abuse being thrown at me. I've got kind of used to it.
He's such a selfless saint, our Nigel.
But to accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow.
Again, Starmer didn't call Reform voters racist. I did, but Starmer didn't.
This language will incite and encourage the radical left. I'm thinking of Antifa and other organisations like that.
Nigel, do you genuinely believe that Antifa was waiting for Keir Starmer to call you racist before they were like, oh wait, Nigel Farage might be racist?
It directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners. And frankly, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, I think this is an absolute disgrace.
Jesus, Charlie Kirk has to be the most annoying corpse in political history. He's like a zombie that the right keeps deploying whenever they want to be hypocritical about political violence. Nigel Farage just went to America specifically to champion Lucy Connolly, who called for asylum seekers to be burned alive. He then had her speaking on stage at his Reform UK party conference. And remember, she literally said, if that makes me racist, so be it. So Nigel Farage has literally and metaphorically embraced the incitement to violence for racial reasons. And now he's arguing that anybody who calls him racist should be condemned for inciting violence.
Starmer says, I don't like or love this country. Well, let me say this. For 30 years, I've fought for British sovereignty.
And what did that achieve, according to you?
Is we haven't actually benefited from Brexit economically.
And everything from financial services to fisheries is probably more difficult now than it was.
Hell, the former deputy of the Reform Party once said that this Brexit is literally worse than remaining in the EU. So pointing to the fact that for 30 years you supported Brexit, something that you and your party have admitted has damaged the UK, doesn't exactly help your case that you love the UK.
He, of course, didn't like the vote. The greatest result, the biggest democratic mandate ever given in this country, when in 2016 we voted Brexit.
You don't get to call Brexit democratic when you explicitly said that if the people of the UK were given a choice between this specific version of Brexit and remaining in the EU...
Second referendum on the deal, which no one understands, and staying in the EU.
And
I can see it as clear
and
as
do you know
day.
what, Colin? Colin, Remain wins that referendum and wins it every single time.
But he still tries to defend Brexit by pointing at Keir Starmer.
He doesn't believe we should govern ourselves. He's happy, be it Brussels, be it the UN, be it a series of foreign courts. He's happy for us to be governed from there.
Less than a month ago, Nigel Farage was in the US Congress trying to get the US administration and American companies to strong-arm the UK into policies that Nigel Farage wanted. He has been doing his best for years to turn the UK into a puppet of Donald Trump. And for the record, when we were in the EU, we had 73 of the 750 members of the European Parliament. That means we have 3 times the voting power of the average EU country. And given that right now we no longer have a seat at that table, but in order to protect our economy, we're having to follow those rules anyway. And meanwhile, we have Nigel Farage trying to get us to dance to Donald Trump's tune. To argue that Nigel Brexit Farage has improved British sovereignty and control is fucking laughable.
And his total level of denial over broken Britain is quite extraordinary. We all know you can't get a GP appointment.
According to the British Medical Association, Brexit has cost us 4,000 doctors. And in 2018, I warned Nigel Farage about that to his face.
Would you accept that a population that has risen beyond anything we've ever seen in this country before has put massive pressure on the National Health Service?
I'd say that EU migrants make up 5% of the UK's population, and yet they make up 10% of our doctors. So rather than EU immigration being something that threatens the country, it is literally keeping it alive.
We all know that crime is out of control.
Brexit is responsible for a third of food price increases and has taken £1,000 from the average household. And it's almost universally accepted that the cost of living crisis, which has been fueled by Brexit, is massively responsible for the massive rise in shoplifting. So in terms of our ability to see a GP and the rise in theft, Nigel Farage has made both of those worse. But to be honest, I'm happy for the boys to keep fighting. Hopefully they'll take each other out and make it easier for somebody like Andy Burnham to make the changes that we actually need. One can hope. I'm Femi. Make sure you follow F Politics so politics doesn't F you. Have a great week.